So I thought it would be fun to show a little quick tutorial on how to build a Docker container for a C#.NET Web API application using an Angular front end. So I created a little monster collector app that just generates random monsters. You can save them to an in-memory database, but the most important part is that we'll containerize the application using Docker and show how that works, and then launch it in the web browser running from the container. So let me show you a little bit about what it looks like first. So you can see here how I am generating a random monster name. I know it doesn't look like much. It is persisted in an in-memory database, which is why it's staying. You can see there's a description of the monster, multiple heads, charges at its prey, can camouflage. So it is using routing in the Angular app, so we can seamlessly change between the single page application displays. We can generate a new monster. These are calling the API. I'll show you that in just a second. And then if we see something we like treading, okay, we can actually save it to the in-memory database. And if we refresh, you can see it's persisting. So how do we put this together first before we jump to the Docker part? Let me show you. So if we take a look here at the code, this is just the controller. This is just a .NET API, web API. You can see it's the monster controller. We have a new command, which just generates a new monster. We have an index, which returns the monster. We have a save. Actually, this returns a list of monsters. Yeah, list a monster. And then we have save. We're only rendering the first one though. And then we have save, which of course saves the monster if when the user clicks that save button. So if you're curious, this is what the database looks like. It's very simple. It's just a context. It's using the entity framework, a context for monsters, which gets dependency injected here. And we see the database initially with 2 random monsters. This is just an in-memory database. And you can see how that's set up right here in the program where we select the option to use a memory database and we inject that using dependency injection into the controller. And that's where we seed it. Okay, so that's not too tricky. While we're on program, let me show you one other thing. This is for Docker. When we do containerize this app, it will be listening on port 80. So we need to specify that on Windows to be able to unblock that so that we can access the container. Otherwise, you will have Swagger for the API, and we do not use HTTPS in this. Okay, enough of that. In case you are also curious, here's the Angular front end. This mirrors what you saw in the web API. We have the monster component is rendered here. More importantly, this is where the data is called from the API. You can see we're using an async service to save and to generate a monster when they click new and to get the monsters. That service, of course, is right here, which is pretty standard Angular code for generating, saving, and calling that web API. Okay, but what everyone's been waiting for is how does this look in Docker? So first, I'm going to stop the client and the server. And over here in the terminal, I'm going to navigate to the base directory. And if we take a look here, here's the Docker file. So what does this actually do? Well, actually, I'm going to issue a build because this is going to take a long time. So I will issue a build command. You can watch the status of that building as I talk to you. So essentially what we're doing is we are navigating into the Angular client directory. We're running npm install, and then we're going to copy the client files, and then we're going to run npm build prod. So that will install the required libraries. The next step of this is to go into the service. We run .NET restore, and then we build that project in production mode that you can see right here. So that's what's going on right here in the status down here. You can see how the Docker build is the Docker containers building. The most important step once this is done, we do install .NET 9.0. You can see right here, which is required for the project. Finally, we're going to copy from the dist client browser folder of the Angular project into www root because these are static files. And once that's done, we copy the service build as well. We expose port 80 on the Docker container and specify the entry point. And that's how the Docker build will actually run. So I generated this file. You can generate this using ChatGPT or Copilot. We're almost done with that Docker build. And once this is all finished, what you will end up with is, so it has finished. You'll have your Docker container, and you can see right here, here's our build that's just completed 2 minutes ago. Now, to actually run this, you can download this, by the way, it's just Docker Desktop. So we don't have a container yet. So what we need to do is we'll go back down into the console here in the terminal, and we'll say Docker run, and we're going to bind port 8080 on our browser in the Docker container to port 80 internally, which will allow the proxy mapping to be able to access the web application. So I'll go ahead and run this. And when I do, take a look back in Docker and you can see that now we have a container for Monster Service that's up and running. So here's the port. So let's see what happens if we actually try to run this. So back in the browser, this is the old one, right, on port 4200 that we were debugging. If I try to refresh this, you're going to get a page not found, right? Because we're not running this in Visual Studio Code anymore. So instead, we're going to head over to port 8080. This is on the Docker container. So if I refresh this page, look at that. The app is running. Now, VS Code is not running. We're loading this directly from Docker. You can see it's doing exactly what it did before. It's persisting in memory. We can generate a new monster, maybe Venom, Mare, sure. Hit save. It saves to the in-memory database. If we refresh it, it's still persisting. And this is how you use a Docker container. So that's pretty cool. We can generate more monsters, hit save. And that really shows what we're doing. So as one final step, let's head back over to Docker. And if we stop the container, and then we take a look back at the browser, if we were to refresh on port 8080, you can see that you'll get back page not found because the application is no longer running. So that's essentially how you use Docker in a .NET app. Now, what's interesting about this is that you can take that Docker container and you can upload it to your favorite cloud storage or public cloud. You could upload this to the Azure Container Registry and then launch the container using Azure App Services. You can use Azure Kubernetes Service to orchestrate the container as well. You could also use this on the public Docker registry and various other private clouds as well. So that's the really cool thing about building these Docker containers. And I recommend giving it a try. It's really not that hard to do. You could see just generating that Docker script, making sure that you have your ports mapped correctly and your paths also correct, that all the files go through. And I hope you have fun and enjoyed this video. If you'd like to learn more about Docker, please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Thank you.